Note the disclaimer, and remember that my supporters on Patreon got to see preview images, work in progress shots, and high-resolution images of the completed figure. If you want to join them, all you gotta do is donate even the smallest amount. Link is below. Hello out there, this is Jackiejack82, and now that those giant robots are finally out of the way, I can get back to making regular commission figures for people. This one's for Jackiejack82 from DeviantArt. It's her fan character, Cinder. Cinder's pretty cute looking, isn't she? I like those big old ears that she has. Of course, since Cinder is a girl, with this particular physique, the easiest way to make her, of course, is with a wave figure, which, of course, is dismantled down to these components. It's another one of those weird waves with the mushroom peg on the left shoe cut in half for some reason, possibly to make it easier to insert with different equipment. But yes, so we had to get to taking this pile of parts and modifying it into another character. So let's start with the legs. Cinder wears these almost knee-high big old cowboy boot looking things. So I basically worked with the flare of Wave's existing pants and just kind of sculpted the top of the boot cuff on there, to create the look of high boots. With a repaint job and reattached feet, then the look is pretty much captured. It's also worth noting at this time that Jackiejack requested that I change Cinder's look a little bit. Instead of wearing a purple skirt, she wanted her to be wearing blue jeans, so that's why the legs are just painted blue, and the character, when you see her later complete, is not going to be wearing a skirt. So, just want to give heads up on that. Also, note that people's drawing styles do tend to vary, but when you're making action figures, you gotta respect the actual proportions of the action figures because there's only so much I can do. That's why the feet look much bigger instead of just those pseudo high heels that she had going on. Now, Cinder's hands weren't visible in the reference photo, so I had to ask Jackiejack what the hands and gloves were supposed to look like. She said that they're kind of elbow-length fingerless gloves, which means the giant glove cup that Wave has simply wouldn't do. So using my X-Acto knife and Dremel, I basically carved away as much as I possibly could from around the wrist cuff without actually compromising the place where the mushroom peg can plug into. As you can see by the tiny hole, I actually did get into the chamber just a little bit, but not so much that it actually compromises the strength of the hand or its ability to rotate as a wrist joint. So, although there is still a little bit of a lump left, this is as far down as I can make it go without just outright completely cutting off the glove cuff and then gluing it back onto the end of the arm. But with a bit of a repaint, and this is the first glimpse at her skin tone, you can see, it's kind of hard to see in here because the contrast is kind of low, but her fur is kind of a dark mauve color. I made it by mixing just a tiny bit of black with my red paint, and it's surprising how quickly you can turn red paint into an almost really dark brown with just a tiny little drop of black. It's actually quite amazing. The modifications to Wave's body were pretty standard. After all, Wave isn't a particularly busty character, and most fan characters are rather busty in comparison. So with a little bit of sculpting to add the top of her little shirt that shows her midriff, and a repaint job, again, you know what? It's weird how even with my new camera, this is photographing darker than it really should be. The mauve almost looks completely black on my screen. I think it's actually the video editing software that's making it look this dark because it doesn't look that dark in the pictures that I took. But let's move on to the most important part of the build, which of course is the character's head. So, of course, removing Wave's bandana and beak to replace it with a muzzle and hair is pretty standard for what I do here. But I did want to make a quick notation about Cinder's ears, as they are significantly larger than most characters I've done, and they point a unique way. They go kind of downwards, like she has them folded down, and I've never really made a character like that before. So, yeah, and also she has them pierced. It's funny that the way her ears are pierced, you wouldn't actually see these piercings unless she keeps her ears folded down, so she just must like carrying them that way. But, yep. Aside from that, she also has heterochromia. As you can see, one eye is left blue, which is just Wave's unmodified eye, and the other eye is red, which, red paint. So, with all the parts done, let's go ahead and put the figure back together and take a look at it. And here she is! Also, it's good to know that if I really need to make a shade of dark brown in the future, I can do so just by putting a tiny drop of black paint into quite a lot of red. So, yeah, that's a good thing to note for the future. But, yep, that is Cinder. I kind of did a tiny miscalculation on her hair. If you notice, her head seems slightly cocked to the side. That's because it's sort of bumping her shoulder a bit. It's not bumping the shoulder joint. It's bumping the part of the torso where the shoulder attaches, if that makes any sense. So you can still move her left arm just fine. It's just that her head's going to be slightly cocked to the side for some reason. Also, I had to repaint her knees because this wave figure was very aggressive at scratching the paint. I ended up having to take the legs back out of the sockets, repaint them, and then coat the paint with a thin layer of crazy glue to make sure that it wouldn't be scraped off again. I don't really like doing that very often because there's always the risk that you could accidentally seal the joints, but once again I was able to do it without destroying the toy. So, thank you all for watching. We'll have more regular custom figures coming very soon, and we'll see you next time.